Hi there. Just bear with me, just getting myself sorted. Just come off a call. So hopefully you can all see me and hear me. So let me know if you can see me and hear me. That would be great. If you can just post a comment in there. Oh. And let me know who's on. That would be wonderful. So I've just got a little Bliss. So if the camera wobbles, because Bliss is mooching about. Bliss, come here. Come on, up, up. Here she is. Very sweet. Yeah. Thanks. Let me just get myself sorted. Just turn my sound down on that one so I can see what's what. So Rebel's just over that side. I don't know if you can. There you go. Rebel's just chilling. There he is. So I have my little whiteboard with me in case we need to go through anything. Okay. So how is everybody? Is everybody okay? Everybody well? Everybody staying safe? Just make sure I can see any comments that come through. Comments can be seen. Brilliant. Just wedge that there so I can hopefully see everything. Excuse me for the sniffles. I had a real bout of hay fever this morning, so I do apologise. Oh. Hi Kaz. Hope you're well. Sorry, Bliss just happened to give me a kiss in the mouth there. That was really nice, Bliss. Oh. Oh, sorry, I just finished a call and then jumped straight on in. So apologies for, I think I'm on time, aren't I? Yeah, cool. Right, so as we're going through this, oh, hi Marie. If you've got any questions, I've got another phone here so I can see. I've put it on that way, so hopefully you can obviously see. If we use the whiteboard, you should be able to see it the right way round, I think. Famous last words. So if you do have any questions, oh, hi Penny. Have any questions, please pop them in and we'll do our best to answer them. So as per our poll, obviously today we are discussing this wonderful topic called reactivity. So what is reactivity? It's probably one of the most overused terms in dog training, because one of the things we have to remember is that dogs are reaction animals. Okay, so things happen, cortisol and adrenaline fire into the system, they act. So by very definition, dogs are reaction animals. Every dog is a reactive animal. You know, whether that's a noise, something visual, something inaudible to us, you know, dogs will just react. Obviously, sometimes those reactions that are chosen are nice, i.e. dog just kind of quietens down, mooches off, goes and does nothing. Sometimes they're behaviours that we don't particularly like, you know, the lunging, the barking, the snarling, and we get a little bit frustrated with our dogs for those. But the weird thing is, believe it or not, the dog that actually sort of cowers down and hides and goes quiet is probably a worse position than for a dog that actually barks, lunges and twirls. Simply because one is classed as passive coping and one is classed as active coping. The active coping actively works to lower the cortisol in the system, whereas the passive coping increases the cortisol. So the flip side is it's worse for us seeing a dog that barks and lunges, but it's actually worse for the dog that goes passive, even though we like that more. Just because that we know that cortisol has a very detrimental effect on dogs' insides. But I'm going to try and keep this not so geeky for you, because as most of you know, I'm quite a bit of a dog geek when it comes to things like this. So I think what I want to go through, so I've tried to keep myself on track today with sort of points that I think are useful to most people when it comes to reactivity. So how could reactivity manifest itself? So it could manifest itself by being dog to dog. It could be joggers going past, could be cyclists, could be cars, could be motorbikes, could be a dog sat in your window and passers by. Okay, so things pass by the window and we just see a dog that goes into meltdown. So all those would be termed, you know, what we would see as manifesting. If you have any unique ones, please pop them in the comments and we can have a chat about them. So how potentially did it start? It can be very subtle, so you might not have even ever noticed it starting. So you could be, and let's do, obviously the picture was of two dogs going at each other, but I don't want to stick onto that specifically. But you know, you go for a walk, your dog's on a lead, and you know, as far as you're concerned, nothing bad is happening, so everything's fine. But the dog themselves could be feeling excitement at seeing the other dog, or anxious and fearful. So reactivity isn't just linked to fearful, it can be reactivity in an over-aroused way. So it's about trying to understand what is the motivation. But at that very first instance, it's very low level, so we don't really notice anything. There's no real massive changes in body language. There might even just be a slight move over towards us. So the dog might just move from, there's the dog over there, or the bike, and they move towards us. Very small amount. That could be the onset of reactivity, and then over time we keep doing it and we keep doing it, and now the dog starts moving over to the other side of the path, or they go behind our legs, or they might give a little ruff, and then it starts going from there until it just gets worse and worse and worse over time, and that could be over a year. Because what's happening for the dog is we keep taking them out, they keep getting exposed to that same situation, they keep feeling the same emotion, and they're feeling that they have to try harder to get the message over that they're either, you know, frustrated, anxious, fearful, over-aroused. So it then escalates up. Then coupled with that, when it reaches a point that our arousal bucket is full, we then start doing some pretty weird things with our dogs. So I'm sure we've all been there. Because I know that I've been there in the past with when I first started out on my dog ownership, was dogs start barking and you'd be yanking the lead and you'd be, look, be quiet, shh, what are you doing that for? There's nothing wrong. And we start having these random conversations with our dog, which the dog then looks at and goes, 99% of the time, as an owner, you're pretty special, you're pretty good. You know, you feed me, you look after me, we have cuddles, we have play. But in this situation, you act like a complete loon. You know, you're the one having a meltdown, but the only time you have a meltdown is when that dog is there, when that motorbike is there, when that car's there. So actually, I need to be wary or worried or over-aroused because my owner's getting over-aroused. So I need to be over-aroused when that happens too. And then it just becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy that it just spirals and gets to a point where the dog explodes. But we've all been part of that chain. So if anyone can sort of sympathize or can sort of feel that, yeah, they've been there with their dogs, just pop a comment in. It'd be interesting to know if that's kind of how you feel, because we do get on that cycle. I've seen so many people sort of leash jerk the dogs because they're barking, and that will just feed into it sort of happening some more. And that's kind of how it gets worse and how we contribute. Okay. But we then continually take our dogs out into that same situation. So many of you who know me and have spoke to me about sort of behavior, I use this very simple analogy a lot. And what I say to people is, if you have someone who is scared of spiders, and every time they see a spider, they sort of freak out. So in this element, I'm talking about a little bit about fear. I'll use the other analogy, which is me and chocolate brownies later. But if you were to push them into that room full of spiders, would the behavior get better or worse? Would it improve them? Would it fix them? Would it stop them being scared of spiders? And in reality, we can look to science for the answer, where what I've just explained there is something that we call flooding. So you're forcing the dog to get exposed, or forcing the person to be exposed to what they don't like. It will only have a positive impact in less than 2% of cases. It can make no difference in around about 23% of cases, but in 75% of cases it will make it worse. And yet as a human, particularly in the UK, we can see a spider and know that that spider is not dangerous to us. We don't have that many dangerous spiders in the UK. We're more dangerous to them. But we still cannot rationalise and stop our fear. And that's because of chemicals in the brain. So if you think about it and go, we have the ability to rationalise, whereas dogs don't. They have an amygdala that is 5 times the size of ours, so they feel emotions way more intensely. But their cerebral cortex is smaller, so they do not have the ability to rationalise like we do. But yet we still remain scared of spiders. So, and if you look at fears and phobias, the stats on people getting over them, it's not that high. You know, people who are scared of heights do tend to remain scared of heights. They may be able to battle past certain points, but the fear never goes away. People who are scared of spiders tend to remain scared of spiders. People who are scared of flying can battle and can go and fly, but they still remain scared. So, but for a dog, they just don't have that ability. So I just have a look at some comments here that are coming through. So that would be flooding. Okay, so, and then they create all those negative associations. So then when we start acting like the loons, they create links from us to those negative situations. Or for example, they start acting like a fool. So we just, you know, we take them home, we take them away. So even though it's often sometimes the right thing to do is to get them out of that situation, the fact that they're leaving it can also be a little bit of a contributory factor to why they feel worse, because they're almost dreading being pulled away from it as well. So you can see it becomes a real complex issue how to address. Okay, so let's just have a quick look on here. So hi Vicky, so my dog has become more reactive to other dogs and people during lockdown. I think it's because we are more conscious to avoid people and dogs. Any advice please? Okay, I'm going to come on to that, Vicky. So when we come to the later stage, I'm going to talk about some strategies on how you can do that, but the key answer is probably using a little bit of desensitization and also some optimism builders as well, but we will come on to that point. So if you sort of with me till the end, if not, if you can actually watch back, but we will cover that. Okay, yeah, so Sylvia's been there. Okay, so we'll come on to those specifically. So what do we look at? So arousal. Let's talk about we can talk about reactivity in the window. I'll sort of come back onto that in a little bit. But what I want you to think about, and hopefully now you'll see if I'm a terrible drawer, so I do apologise for any little pictures that I draw. But what I want you to understand is, you know, we have sort of, I think if we just talk about sort of, here would be, not that you're necessarily going to be able to read that, but arousal level. Just make sure you can in the right zone. And then this would potentially sort of be time. So what will happen is, you know, as we start at this point, sort of at the house. So let's imagine we're going out for a walk. What is your dog like the minute that you put your shoes on? Okay. So Sylvia, yeah, trainer forced Diesel to face fears. Don't think he ever got over it. Yeah, it's not something that it's not good for humans, but it's not practical for dogs, more so because of their brain structure. So, is your dog calm, or does your dog start to go, oh, I think we're going out? So what happens is we end up with this, dare I say it, we're then here, so we can just go, we've reached sort of level 1, and I'm just going to just put a dotted line over here that will become apparent. So we've gone, you know, this is shoes. Okay, then it could be, what are you like when you get the lead out? So we then sort of flick up to here and we get the lead. Don't know if you can, I might move that a bit closer just so you can possibly see it. Hopefully you will, if not I'll scribble. So we've now got the shoes and the lead, and the dog's here. And then we're going to walk to the front door. So we're now here and we're at the door. And your dog maybe is panting heavily, spinning, walking around, mooching. But we're now up here. And then we're going to open the door and go outside. So we go outside. Okay. So we are now right on this line. Now this line is a term that we call threshold. Okay. And this is the point where cortisol and adrenaline have reached such a level that we're bordering a dog that will not sort of listen to you. So then we carry on walking now. And now we see our first dog. Okay. I would draw a dog, but as I say, my drawing is terrible, so I'm going to steer clear of that. So we're now up here. So we've now got a dog, that the very first dog we've seen. So all these little bits here fed into that arousal level. Okay, so we're now with a dog over threshold. Can anyone sort of link to that they see that in their own dog? Okay, so has anyone sort of seen their dog sort of get aroused as they go to the door, and then the point when you open the door, the dog drags you outside and you go for a walk? Because now the downside is, if we want the dog to come back down to here, okay, that, I'll just scribble on here, on average will take 72 hours. Okay, so if you can see that. So for a dog to go from this point back to here, back to our real calm basal level, 72 hours. So if you were to go, okay, so we've come home and this was Monday and it's now Tuesday and we're going to go back out, your dog's cortisol and adrenaline level may only ever be there. And when you go out on Tuesday, what's going to happen is, as soon as you put your shoes on, they're almost at threshold already. So they haven't even gone through this point and we're already pushing them over threshold. So it's something really worth bearing in mind and being aware of, that we understand this cycle of arousal and how to, and with one of the groups that I'm with, we talk about the arousal bucket. Some people use a cup, some people use a jug, but we talk about it as filling up in stages. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense. So if anyone doesn't, oh, let's, so I have a reactive rescue, but I can't watch at the minute. Will it be available to watch later? Yes, Fiona, it will be on, it'll stay on my Facebook page and it'll be posted up to my YouTube channel in the live section. So obviously I'll put a link on the post that says if you want to watch it, it'll be available on my YouTube channel to watch as we go. So we've got those. And one thing I think I've missed, I just need to, I'm going to leave that on for now, and then just hopefully I might, because I know this board has seen better days, so we'll try and wipe it down again. Okay, so does that make sense? Has anyone sort of seen that in their own dog, sort of just going up that arousal level, and then we reach this point? And if it makes sense. Okay. I know my writing is terrible, but I'm going to stick to not drawing pictures. Oh. Bought some really cheap coffee the other day. That is nasty. Oh. It's lockdown. It's terrible, isn't it? I can't. Haven't been brave in going to Tesco, so I've just been nipping around place and picking up what I can. But that. Oh dear, God. Okay, right. So what do we do in that scenario? I'm going to come on to that again later. We're going to talk about sort of desensitizing those points. Okay, so rehearsal. So now what happens is we take the dog out every day. So the dog is being taught every day, this is what I do. So they practice the behavior that we don't want. And all that happens is they get better at this behavior that we don't want. Now then the challenge comes, oh, but I've got to take my dog out. Got to take my dog out. I've got to take my dog out. Well, for me, again, for those of you that have been following me for a while know that, you know, these pair, they go out for a walk probably once a week. Even before lockdown, it was probably once a week. And the walk that I did at the weekend would generally be a massive one. You know, I'd pack up the van and I'd be going off to the Peak District and we'd go for like a 4-hour sort of march, and then we'd come back and go to the van and maybe do another 4 hours on the Sunday. And then Monday to Friday, yes, I've got a nice back garden which has got doggy equipment in, and I do scent work with Bliss, and I do trick training with Rebel. So yep, so yep, you can go and just pick up where you need to be, and it'll be available on, say, Facebook and YouTube. So I don't walk them that often. They interact with dogs. I do take them out onto my front, and we will sit on the step and we will watch dogs walk past, and I will just reward them for watching dogs walk past. So what I'm trying to teach them there is, you know, they see a dog, it's just a nothing event. And again, I'm going to cover that a little bit later. But I do lots of different things in the back garden. So I'll do confidence games. I'll do sort of shaping games onto wobbly surfaces. Now, what does wobbly surfaces have to do with reactive dogs? Reactive dogs, from a fear point of view, tend to be anxious, nervous about a lot of things. So if you own a dog that reacts to dogs out on the street in a aggressive way, and I hate to label that with aggressive way because it is only a communication signal, okay? But I'm just trying to talk in ways that you can really follow me without getting me into geek mode. They will generally look at a lot of things. So if they hear a cupboard slam, you may see them jump back. If you drop a knife on the floor, you may see them jump back. If the wind blows something over or it's howling a little bit, you start to see them on a little bit of edge. So generally there are other visual signals with reactive dogs from fear. If you've got an over-aroused dog for reactivity, you've got other signals at home, like running around, jumping up at you, tugging on your clothes to get your attention, barking at you to do stuff. So you will have, it won't just be isolated to out on a walk, there'll be some other subtle signals. So with a fearful dog, the key would be desensitization and building confidence. An overexcited dog would be arousal down and calmness, okay? And then giving them both a job to do in those situations. But you cannot train in the situation, okay? Once your dog has gone to here and is having an absolute meltdown, don't care if any trainer claims that they can train a dog here, run a mile from them. It is impossible, okay? I don't want to get into a debate about methods because some people will say, well, I could there are trainers who would use an electric shock collar in those moments to stop it from happening. And you all know my view. I will never condone any of those methods. I am a pain-free trainer. I use fun and games. I'm not looking for quick fixes because quick fixes don't exist in most environments of work or life. There's things we have to do. But I was just going off topic again. I watched a video the other day which was showing this guy supposedly with this wonderfully trained pack of dogs that were walking off lead right by his side, all hunkered in, following him everywhere and doing everything that he wanted. And it was hailed as this wonderful video. But if you actually pause the video and look at the dogs and you look at the dog's ears, the ears were pinned back. So you could see that almost those dogs were like compliant to a degree, because a dog doesn't walk with its ears pinned back. Most dogs that are loose and fluid, their ears will be floppy, they'll be up, they'll be moving, but if they're pinned, they're not comfortable. So you can see that probably what's happened there is that the dogs have been told off, shouted at, maybe even had the electric shock collar on to suppress a behaviour. The problem with those methods, and as I've said many a time, people will ask me, do those methods or can they work? And I'll go, of course they can work, because they work by punishment and suppression. The problem is there's the fallout. And just recently there was a couple of cases where a dog that was jumping into a field and playing with sheep was used with an electric sort of fence to prevent it from going in. And then this dog only used to play with the sheep, by the way. It used to run around and just bound and just do all kinds of things. But one day the fence didn't work and the dog jumped into the field and it killed 2 sheep. So you can see that that worked by suppression, but when there was nothing there to suppress the behaviour, what had happened is the dog had now linked discomfort and pain to the object. And this is what we've got to be very careful of with reactive dogs that are particularly reacting to other dogs or kids. The one thing we do not want to create is a negative association to the object, because the last thing we want is a dog's suppressed behaviour going, I'm scared of what's coming towards me, and then they get discomfort, which only ever increases the fear of the object that's coming. And then when they are free to do so, they will act in a wholly, totally inappropriate manner. So opposed to choosing flight, they will choose other things. Don't want to get onto that too much, but just it's worth understanding that creating negative associations to suppress isn't teaching a dog not to do it. And one other thing that I think we have to sort of consider is that some dogs will not like all dogs. And if you are a multi-dog household owner, let's say you've got 4 dogs in your household, at any given point, not all 4 of them will get on with everybody. And if you've had sort of 2, 3, 4 kids in your house, you'll know that they don't always get on. You know, they fall out. It's the same in the wild. We can't expect dogs to like every single dog that sort of goes on. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense. Sorry, I went a little bit off topic there. So Diesel was terrified of the wind. Okay, we have a guy like that near us. They don't look happy dogs. I don't want a robot dog. No, you know, I want my dogs to have personality and character. I do want them to listen when I need them to, which is why we train and we teach. But I also have to accept that they are animals that do have feelings and emotions going through their system, and they are dogs, so they will react in a dog way. For us to, and this is just again my view, and I don't want to sort of get on a soapbox, for us to sort of impart our will and say dogs, if we want to have them as pets, have got to live in this construct. Well, what does that make us? Because dogs aren't asking to be here and live this way. You know, we're choosing that for them. So, and if we're going to choose that, we have to accept there are certain things that dogs will do in certain behavioral construct, and we just need to fine tune it to say, rather than behaving like that, we want you to behave a slightly different way. So that's what we're obviously going to cover a little bit later on. So we were talking about sort of in the moment. So what can you do in the moment? Okay, so in the moment, the one thing that I would say that probably most of us have done in the past is freeze. You know, we have gone, oh my God, there's a dog coming, and we stop. And we kind of, what do I do? And we're thinking, right, I need to get some treats. And at this point, our dog's staring over there, they're getting closer. And then by the time we've got ourselves sorted out, there's a mini explosion and we're just kind of froze and we just don't know what to do. So in essence, freezing is one of the worst things that we can do. So if you know your dog is going to react, but you know they have a safe distance, and this is something that you will need to work out for your own dog, is at what distance can your dog see another dog without reacting? So that's number one, and that's an important point to remember when we come on to the desensitization stage, because that's a point where you're going to start your work from. So the first thing we need to do in the moment is get our dog to that safe distance. And dare I say it, whether that's me escaping down somebody's drive, moving off into a wooded area to sort of go off to the side. You know, if that dog is off lead and coming up, I might even decide that I'm going to throw some food for that dog and take my dog away. And if they keep pestering my dog and dare I say it, and a squabble ensues, well, that's not your fault, you know. And because if that dog is constantly pestering you and the other owner isn't calling their dog back, sadly, and if that's you, you know, you need to sort of get that recall going, because it's not right for a dog to come and pester you. If you've got your dog on lead and that dog is off lead, then your dog should not go up and pester. So I've spent a lot of time with Bliss to sort of go, right, dog's on a lead. Do I need to put her on a lead, or can she walk past? And Bliss will walk past and sort of ignore those dogs. But if she starts showing too much of an interest in going over, then should be going on the lead, because it's not fair for me to sort of put that dog under that pressure. Even though Bliss is massively friendly, massively happy, it doesn't matter. The pressure that Bliss could put on another dog, as sweet as she is, and Rebel, quite happy to meet other dogs, but he's not a fan of dogs coming up into his face. So if I'm like, well, Rebel's on a lead, so, and if a dog was, I saw it coming towards him, I'd be stepping in between and asking that dog to sort of sit and wait, and then I might let them greet, but not everyone has the confidence to do that. I wouldn't be doing right by them, and it would be my fault. No matter how good Bliss is, it's irrelevant, because it's all about what the other dog is feeling. So the best thing to do is to get them out of there. So we use a method called A to B. So we just will train a behavior. So again, this is something that would need to be trained separately away, and I'll come on to it again later, but it'd be where we would slide our hand down the lead, move the dog away. But that has to be done in stages, because not every dog is going to tolerate a hand going down the lead and pulling them away while they're in a zone. So we need to teach the dog to learn to like that. And it almost becomes a physical cue. So the hand will come down the lead, and the act of the hand coming down the lead almost starts the dog turning away naturally. But you've got to practice that in the house, in the back garden, at different times, on lead, you know, and then out on the front before we even do it with stimuli. So we're just shaping with the dog, this is what we're going to do. And then the other thing is movement. One of the best things to do is to keep moving. So if you have got no option, just do either zigzags, figure of eights, circles, just try and keep your dog moving. It's much harder. I get it that some of the stronger dogs may well be pulling, but if you can keep moving, often they will sort of get back into that mode, and it's just enough. So movement is kind of key, and if you can get in early enough before the reaction starts, so you can move before they get into this point, if you can start moving here, you've got a much better chance of maintaining their focus than if they have gone into explosion. Other than that, it's just literally create as much distance as you can and then get them away from that situation. That's really all you can do in the moment. All the training needs to be done away from the situation, so you can actually really teach your dog and get their brain to understand what you want them to do. Okay, are you with me so far? Does that all make a bit of sense? So just let me know if you do, because I want to just make sure that I'm telling you right. I'm just going to get rid of that for now. So I just wanted to talk to you about trigger pictures. So I think we've used the term sort of trigger picture or criminal profile. I really don't know why I'm drinking that, because that is horrendous. So dare I say it, that trigger pictures for dogs can be quite unique in how they view situations. So you may have a dog that you go, when I take the dog out for a walk, he barks at all white dogs. But when my partner takes him out, no issues whatsoever. Okay, so it's just me. Okay, now again, without sort of going into that, that's what we can then term as a trigger picture. So let's just say you're going for a walk and no comments about my drawings. So that's not a bad tree, is it? If you can see that, that's pretty impressive. So trigger picture is a tree, and then what we're going to have is we're going to have a sort of park bench. Okay. Okay. So like picnic bench. Pretty terrible, but and then next to that we've got, you know, a large doggy poo bin, and then over here I'm going to be really bad. I'm just going to draw a stick person because I don't draw very well. And we've got let's have a different colour. Let's have a, no, did a tree would have been better green. So we've got the lead, and then we're going to have a stick dog as well. Okay, so we've got our dog. And so now we're in this situation and the dog is relatively okay. Okay, so if you can see that. So the dog's relatively okay. But now we then bring in over this side, another dog has just popped its head around here, and we now go into complete meltdown. Okay, so the dog starts barking because this dog has come into view. It is also possible that we could remove that. Do you need to go and get remove the bin, and the dog doesn't react? Because for a dog, often the trigger picture has to be exactly the set of circumstances. So your dog could react in a totally specific way, and if all that trigger picture isn't met, the dog won't. Your trigger picture could just be the dog. The trigger picture could be you, the lead, the dog, and the bench. So dogs can form these very, very complex, weird trigger pictures that make it difficult for us to understand, and we go, my dog didn't bark at the black dog but did the white dog. Why did that happen? And again, it's how they create these fear pictures. And fear pictures for dogs, it's a very simple process, but it makes it very complex when you're trying to undo behavior. Because dogs will link the association to what they see and smell. And I think again, those people that have been with me know I use this analogy a lot, which is if a dog runs into a road and, dare I say, a car comes and hits the dog, doesn't cause any major damage, but they're staring at a child on a blue scooter, the dog won't be scared of cars, because what was in that dog's field of view was the child on a blue scooter. So now children and blue scooters are what create a fear response, but it'll still run into a road. But as a human, we would know that it was the car that caused the pain. So we'd know to be scared of cars. A dog won't do that. So is everyone with me on trigger pictures? Okay, does that make a bit of sense in terms of where we're at? So, but also it could be that the saliency, and dogs do have a, you know, they're family dogs, but often they do have a, sorry, Bliss is just knocking the camera thing. They do have a saliency towards particular people. So that may mean that, you know, so you here, you may be the person that feeds the dog the most. Or you may be the person that sits with your dog in your lap. So the saliency that the dog places on you, but also you could be the more emotional person. So you know, at times at home, you could be the one that shows their emotion more than the others, so the dog picks up on that. So then when another dog comes into view, you start to feel nervous. So they feel that it could go into protection and trying to say, look, please go away from my owner because I'm worried about them. It could be that this dog's going, don't come any closer, because if you come any closer, my owner turns into an absolute mental, sorry, and I don't want to use the word mental because that's appropriate, but you know, they turn into an absolute loon and they go crazy, they have a meltdown. Okay, so I don't want to cause any offense, so please just take it in the context it's meant in these political times. So they're just going to have an absolute meltdown, so you need to stay away. So now they're going to bark and bark and bark and bark and bark at this dog to say, look, you've got to stop away because I don't want my owner to turn into this beast. Okay, does that make a bit of sense? So trigger pictures are really important. And when we start to understand, so some dogs will walk down a street and bark at every single dog, but then when you get onto the park, they don't bark at dogs. So again, trigger picture. That could be because the path is more confined, the park is more open, but also on the park you see bigger groups of dogs. So this dog might actually go into what we call suppression, because they're like, well, there's no point in me reacting and going mental because all these dogs are here, so I'm putting myself at risk. But one-on-one, it's a slightly different scenario. So you've got to start understanding what the trigger picture is. Okay, so is everyone with me so far? So if you can just let me know if you are with me, and that all makes perfect sense with my terrible moochy drawings. Because then what's important is that you can actually start making some mental notes or even getting a diary and jotting down what you are seeing as your trigger picture. So then you can start working on it. So then you can start separating out the trigger picture and rewarding for each component of that trigger picture, and then adding parts of that trigger picture together to help desensitize the dog. Okay, so, oh, thanks, Emily. Always glad if it makes sense, because like with me, it makes sense in my head, and then when I watch it back sometimes I'm like, no, John, you did go a bit geeky. So right, so as I say, if you have got any questions, I'm just going to have a quick check back, make sure I've not missed anybody's little questions coming through. Cool, I think we're okay. Okay, so let's just talk about the dog in the window. Quite a common one. Bliss loves the window, and I don't mind her being sat in the windowsill, apart from I have an embarrassingly snotty window, which at least stops the pigeons flying into it. But she will watch the world go by. And when I'm in a mood to train her up there, I will bring her dinner. As I say, I don't feed my dogs from a bowl. I have their daily food allowance on me. It's not for everybody, I get that, but it's really useful to make sure you can reward your dog often and make them work for their food. So in the case of like reactive dogs, if you think about it, if we feed them all their food in the day or in the morning and at night, then they go up onto the windowsill, we're not going to be feeding them again till later. Trying to reward them and mark good behaviour becomes really, really difficult. Okay, so I have Bliss's food in my pouch. If I think I just want to feed her, someone might scatter feed her a bit and then just hold some back. She's always going to have the right amount of food for her for the day to maintain her weight balance and make sure that, you know, her body condition score is on the right path and what have you. So she's not going to be overfed, she's not going to be underfed. If I've got anything left at the end of the day, I'll get a treat ball out and I'll stick it in there, or I'll get a frozen Kong out. So she will always have that right amount. But I will sit in the window with her, and as people walk past, if she stays calm, I will mark and reward. If she then goes into barking, I would then restrict access to the window. So I would close the curtains. And if I can't be there, then I'm going to go to management. Okay. Now again, management is a useful tool in a training spectrum, but management will often fail you, which is why we have to do management with training. So management is trying to prevent the dog from practicing the behavior we don't want. So if you're not there and you allow your dog access to the window, so they sit on the back of the sofa and watch the world go by and bark at everyone that passes, they're just going to get better at it. We know that practice makes perfect. So they sit in the window, person walks into view, they bark. Guess what happens? The person walks past and goes away. So your dog goes, did a cracking job there. They came into view, I told them to go away, and they went away. There's the reward. You haven't even had to be part of that cycle for your dog to get a reward mechanism. So the act of the person walking away becomes the environmental reward. So they just practice and they'll get better. And they'll get better. But what will happen is they're like, this bloody person isn't listening. And they keep coming. So now I have to tell them harder. So now the barking gets louder, longer, more ferocious. I say ferocious, I hate using words like that with dogs, but you get the point. And then they just get better. And then when we're in, we're like, oh God, dog's barking. And then when we then might do some of the removal technique, but we're removing them 5% of the time, but they're practicing the right behaviour 95% of the time. Well, we're never going to win that battle, are we? We're never going to get the dog to behave in the way that we want, because they're being rewarded 95% of the time for what we don't want, and they're only being rewarded 5% of the time for what we do want. Well, what would you do? You know? And if they get enjoyment from it, so they get dopamine release and they enjoy it, well, they're always going to choose it. And I think I again, just to create that thought of saliency. So saliency is the value that a dog places on it, not about what you think is high value. But I go, look, you know, I love chocolate brownies. but I also love lemon slices, but chocolate brownies are my number one. So if you were to put a chocolate brownie with somebody 100 yards away, or 20 lemon slices with somebody 1 yard away, I'm still going for the chocolate brownie because they're my all-time favourite. So if my all-time favourite thing is to bark at passers-by in the window, but I do get a treat if I don't bark over here 5% of the time, the saliency is barking. So I hope that analogy again makes a bit of sense. So you just got to think about it. So if you're not there, we apply management. If you can't train, apply management. Okay, close the curtains, remove the sofa from the window. Yeah, it may not be what you want to do, but your option is you either leave the dog doing what you don't want it to do, which means it will just continue, and for the dog get better, but for you be worse. So we have to do something different. You cannot keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different outcome. Okay, so we have to do that. So we either, you know, if you need to, buy one of those sheets of what do you call it, polythene, the screens that you can just stick on your window, and just makes it a bit blurred so the dog can't see purely, and you can have that on for a while. Okay, but for me it's then about training. So I then would then open the curtains slightly, have the dog up there with the curtains open, you know, just a tiny amount, because then what that will do is mean that the person only comes into view for a very short period of time, and the dog hasn't been able to remember that very quick sort of trip to threshold. So remember when I said we start here, so hopefully let me just see if I can get a better pen, so hopefully we can see that. So back to this little drawing, so we were here, and then they see the person, so they see the person for the first time, they're there, the person gets closer, they move to there, person gets closer still, and then eventually the person gets into sideline of the window and we're back over this threshold point. So remember that one event, the person moving towards, forces the dog up the trigger point. Okay, so that's when we talk about sort of the arousal system. And then again, remember, once they've hit that point, so once they've been in your window and had this meltdown here where they've just gone absolutely ballistic, we have that 72 hours for the dog to return to a basal level of cortisol and adrenaline. I can't remember which study it was. Trying to think. I don't think it was on the Mitchell study. I think it was on. It might have been on the Blackwell. I think it was the Blackwell study. So the Blackwell et al. Study found that if a firework sounded to a dog that was nervous of fireworks, they found that the cortisol level rose something like 210%. And even after 40 minutes after the firework had sounded, the cortisol was still over 200% its normal level. So you can see why that sort of 72 hours is crucial. Okay. So it's always important that then if your dog does this every day, they're always going to be here with, you know, and, you know, we talk about sort of this arousal bucket system of levels with this sort of very, very sort of little hole in the bottom. So we know that that sequence of events from there to there could happen in less than 1/40th of a second. From there to there, so from empty to full, 1/40th of a second, bloody 72 hours to empty. I mean, that's just crazy, isn't it? I mean, it just makes everything hard for us. So when you start to understand that cycle with your dogs, you can start thinking, well, okay, what do I need to do? So I say with the barking in the window, we prevent, and then we take the dog to the window. And the minute that we see a person arrive into view, even from a very distant, I'd be rewarding the dog and say, oh, look, there's a person. Or a person with a dog, here's a treat. And then as the dog gets closer and closer, or the person gets closer and closer, I start increasing the reward until when the dog's right outside the window, I'll give them a massive party, and then the person walks off with the dog and the pressure's gone. So what they learn is that as they get closer, things get better, and then they don't need to. But that has to be done in a very, very slow desensitization process. Anyone who understands desensitization and counter conditioning knows that it's a long, hard slog to work, because there's always that chance when you're going to see someone, you're not going to be on your game, the dog's going to be up in the window and they're going to have a meltdown. So you can never be on it permanently. So that's why I say you've got to apply management and training at the same time, so we can lessen that 95%, so they're only hopefully not getting any chance to practice the wrong behavior at all, but we can get them onto the right behavior and reward them for the right behavior more often. The more we reward, the more we'll get the right behavior. Okay, is everyone with me? Everyone awake still? So we've gone through trigger pictures, we've gone through the arousal system, and if you're all still with me, obviously what we talk about now is strategies. Okay, so what is it that we need to do with a dog? Remember I said it can be, the drivers and the motivation can be very different. So it could be arousal, excitement, frustration, or fear. Okay, so it could be any mixture of those. Okay, so desensitization and counter condition are key, but you can only do that from a safe distance. So with a dog on dog reactivity, you can only do that by going to a park and being a distance where you know your dog does not react, and then you start rewarding them for when they see a dog. Minute they see a dog, reward. Minute they see a dog, reward. You could go to using a toy and playing with a toy, but predominantly my recommendation when you're talking about reactivity is I steer clear of toys, because that drives arousal up. Okay, so even though we're talking about adrenaline and cortisol, obviously if we then play toy, the adrenaline goes up. So if they then let go of the toy and then see the dog, the reaction will be far higher up that chain. So I tend to look at food predominantly, because food is linked to the parasympathetic nervous system, which is about gut and digestion, and the parasympathetic nervous system will only be at play with a calmer dog. And I'm sure many of you that are seeing that chain know that dog will take food here. They might still eat it here, but here they might snatch it. Oops, can't spell. So snatch it and turn back to the dog. So you'll get a dog that goes grab, look, and be back fixated. And then here, you could probably drop a Sunday dinner on the floor and they wouldn't even touch it. They'd be so fixated on the approaching dog. So by using food, we can work out where they are on this arousal. And if they're here, we know that at that point, we need to be creating some more distance, because at that point, we know that this explosion is only just around, is a very short distance away. Here, at these two levels, we can still work with a dog. Okay. Now, we often talk about principles like LIMA, which is least invasive, minimal aversive. And it's a very valid principle, which is, so I say least invasive, minimal aversive. So we're not trying to put the dog under too much pressure. And some people might say it's wrong to put your dog under any pressure. I don't think that's strictly true, in my opinion, because our world is stressful. It's stressful for us. As humans, we have to learn how to cope with stress. And I defy anybody, and if anybody on this live can sort of tell me and say they have managed to get their dog to live without any stress in their life whatsoever, they are a way better person than me, because stress is all around us. If I go for a walk with Bliss on a road walk and a car backfires, that's stress. November the 5th, you know, fireworks going off, there's stress. Strange noises, so kids screaming in the back garden that they haven't heard because we're on lockdown, stress. So stress is all around us, okay? And for me, if I can teach my dog to cope with stress, but in a safe way. So again, remember I said flooding, no, but exposure to mild stresses and teaching the dog to cope with stresses and how to help them work through some low level stresses is much better. Okay. Now I just want to jump back, so before we go on to strategies, also just to cover off one little point to do with sort of the maternal process with a dog. So we know that a dog's early life will have a massively significant impact upon how they react to things. So from 3 weeks of age to 16 weeks, there's various people that have different views on this, but generally most people will talk to you about 3 to 16 weeks. Okay, which often, I mean, it used to be called the critical phase, often now called the socialization period. So what happens between 3 and 16 weeks will shape a lot of dogs' behavior. And again, another study, and I think it was from the same study with, who did I say? Blackwell, I think, said that one exposure to fireworks with a neutral response. So we're not looking about, oh, good boy. What we're looking for is firework goes off, good boy, good girl. So a very calm response. So they don't react and you just do it very calmly. One exposure in that period could be enough to protect your dog from ever becoming scared of fireworks. So what happens in that period is massively important. But also what happens, you know, so let's just say, you know, this is kind of the pregnancy. So, you know, so mum starts getting pregnant, or mum gets pregnant here. My writing is so poor. But in this period here, there's a paper on a case where there was a female dog that had lived with its owner for a while. Sadly, the owner passed away. The dog became stray. And while it was stray, in this period here, it became pregnant. And during this period, it got attacked by dogs. And I believe hit by a car. Horrible story, I know. Okay. So then, obviously, puppies. The dog, after it had been hit by a car, got taken to a rescue centre. This dog was absolutely terrified. Obviously, you can imagine it's lost its owner. It became stray. It's got pregnant and then had these happen. But for this period, it was with a really great foster. So it was in a foster home with people who were fantastic with the dog, looked after it really well. The mum had the puppies in that home. Again, massively well cared for, looked after in the most amazing way. The puppies then went to the rescue and were rehomed. Okay, but within 8 weeks of being rehomed, every single one of the puppies was returned to the rescue centre with behavioural issues. Okay, and it was because of that period there, while the mum was pregnant. Because what happens when the mum's pregnant, whatever's happening to her in her life, she is absolutely sending information to her pups to prepare her or prepare them for the world they're going to encounter. Okay, so even though the final part of pregnancy and the pups being born and this 3 to 16 week period, the puppies still ended up coming back because of this significant impact here. Okay, so while that is a terrible sort of story, but I say the paper, if anybody wants it, I can maybe pop the link onto my channel so you can have a read of it. But it's a really interesting study. And it says that, unfortunately for you as an owner, often there might be nothing you can do. Now, those dogs while you can go through and still do counter conditioning and desensitization, may never ever be that perfect dog that we wanted, because we all do want that perfect dog. But if that's the scenario, and obviously in this point here, obviously what we've got to look at is how good the breeder is. So if you are having a pup, it's important to know that the breeder is going to be doing everything possible to give them the most rounded life. But that just goes to show the importance of what we call of sort of prenatal status of dogs, and the impact that the mother can have on unborn puppies if she is stressed. So if mother is absolutely stressed, it is going to have an effect on the puppies, and then training may never get the dogs out of that. Okay, so just see what went. Yeah, so I know when Lottie is close or over her stress threshold when she won't take a treat. Yep. So it's important to know when your dog's reaching that point. So, bit of a sad story, but I think it clearly illustrates where we are. So, strategies back to sort of working on. So as I say, with the window, for me, desensitization would be go to the window, short exposures, and have the dog doing something, and I'd be feeding them in the window going, people come, you get food, people come, you get food, people come, you get food, then bring them down, close the curtains, end the session. Excuse me. So very important to make sure that we do that on a consistent basis. So I might do it once every other day and then create management. Management doesn't have to be there permanently, because then you'll start to find that your reward mechanism can then, and it is important that this reward mechanism goes from being every time a person comes to maybe ping-ponging it a bit. So it's like you don't give them the treat straight away. They have to get a little bit closer, or you're going to give them at the start and you're going to miss the middle bit and you're going to wait until they're at the level. And then sometimes you're going to then give it when they've walked past. So you're going to start varying it, and you're also going to start lowering the amount, because it's important to put it onto variable reward ratio. And again, I've spoke about variable reward ratio before, where high reward ratio is the most at risk of extinction. So if you stop rewarding, the behavior stops. Variable reward ratio, i.e. the dog gets a reward every now and then, is the most is most resistant to extinction, because the dog learns to go, oh, I didn't get a treat this time, well, I'm going to get one this time. Oh, I didn't get one that time, I'll get one this time. And they'll just keep persevering to get the treat. Variable reward ratio is key. So desensitization with dogs. So at the park, that would be going to a safe space, finding your distance your dog can cope, and then teaching and dog to go, there's a dog. And I might even use the word dog. I might go, oh, look, there's a dog and here's a treat. And then I'm going to gradually close that gap down over time. Okay. If that means that I have to change from walking on the street, and it means I might have to drive to my local park to give myself that availability, I will do it. If it means I have to drive to a less densely populated area to walk my dogs, then I will do that. I'm not going to put my dogs through the bit that is causing them stress. Okay. And I think, like I did with the spiders, you wouldn't force someone who is scared of spiders to go into somewhere that was full of spiders. And if we look at dog reactivity as being that dog's room full of spiders, I think we can make more sense as humans. So then I want to teach my dog a behavior that is incompatible with barking and lunging. Okay, so in the window or out on a walk, I can teach a hand touch. Okay, so basically dogs coming into view, hand touch, and they keep their nose on my hands, because if their nose is on my hand waiting to get the reward, they can't look at the dog and then bark. Okay, but I can't go to just teaching a hand touch quickly and then trying to do the hand touch in a really stimulating environment, because the saliency and the value isn't there. So I've got to build the value in the hand touch for a number of, with some dogs, number of days, for some dogs, number of weeks, to get that value. And then I'm going to start taking it on the road with me into different places to really bring about the value that the hand touch means something important. With Rebel and Bliss, when I'm out on a walk, so for those of you that have braved going out during lockdown to walk your dogs. Just a quick check, make sure we've got any questions. If you've gone along canal paths, it's been murder because there's been that many cyclists that it's like stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, and getting the dogs in close. So I've been using middle, which is a position that I have my dogs come into middle. They wait, bikes go past, and I reward. So my dogs now have this default cue, and I do that with other dogs as well. So I have my dogs come into middle, so they know that whatever's happening, we go into middle, they get fed, nothing bad happens, and then we walk on. And then sometimes the other dogs stay close and they can go and have a sniff. So they get the reward of sniffing, and then we move on. So middle is one of those things that I teach. I also will teach something called the lead pressure game. So when the lead goes tight, which is what happens with most reactive situations, is that the dog will go out, the lead goes tight. Well, I will practice at home trying to teach my dog to turn to me the minute that lead goes tight. How do I do that? I might throw some food out. As they go out to get the food, they reach the end of the lead. Now, I'm not going to pull it. I'm just going to, in a way, what I do is I say to people, you know, put your hand on your belt buckle or on your stomach and just hold it there. So when they reach the end of the lead, there's no pull, it just stays tight. And then I wait for them to gravitate to me, and then I reward them. Okay, so all that teaches them, when they have lead pressure, they return to me. And then I can start then gently sort of pulling it. So no yanking, just gently pulling. So the minute they feel any slight pressure on that lead, they're going, no, yeah, I come to mum, I come to dad, and I get my treat. And then they learn that when there is pressure on the lead, I have to disengage and come back. And then the next thing is disengagement. Disengagement is one of my favourite things to teach, and it's about giving your dog the ability to see something that they really want, okay, but switch off from it and return to you. So when we did, for those people that did the Sexier Than a Squirrel challenge, you know, that was all about making sure that you were more sort of sexier than the environment. And in reactivity cases, it's very similar. It's about making sure that the dog knows to switch off from what's coming and focus on you, because you've got it, you've got their back. But you also have to bear in mind that there will be some dogs that will never, ever get beyond it. Okay? So not every case can be fixed. And I think it's important that, you know, I mean, just look at the human world. You know, is everybody we see in the human world likable, friendly, happy to us? To other people, they may be the perfect friend, but given a different set of circumstances, we may not like them. So not everybody can get over this. And I remember one particular case. I worked with a Romanian rescue dog that had been treated really, really poorly by humans and had a very distinct fear of waste trucks. And this dog would not set foot outside the back door. It took us a year to get this dog to go to toilet in the back garden. It took us a year to get them, in the same year we were able to get them into the car, and we were able to go to a park or a forest and what have you, and we could have the dog out there, but it would not walk around the estate at all. So the minute it saw people, it wanted to run home. And in the end, we just kind of said, look, we've got it to this point. We've spent a year. The dog was, I think it was 9 years old. So it was already reaching that phase of, excuse me. Drinking terrible coffee for a throat. Of going into canine cognitive decline. So we have to say, right, we've done as much as we can. Let this dog live its life out in a nice manner. It doesn't have to face the human race anymore. Let it live in this little bubble where we've got it going to a field, we've got it going to a forest, we've got it walking into the back garden to its business. It's happy, it's relaxed, it's calm in that situation. We don't need to push that anymore. Let's stay where we are and live for this dog, you know, in its current environment. So I hope those strategies make sense. So counter conditioning, desensitization, pairing something nice with the previously fearful stimulus, or pair calmness with the previous excitable stimulus. So if you've got an excitable dog, go to the park, safe distance, teach calm. Then go closer, teach calm. Go closer, calm. Closer, calm. And then hopefully you can give them the ultimate reward of sniffing and saying hello to a dog, a person, bike. Not necessarily going to say hello to the bike, but you get what I mean. You can go very, very close and they're not going to react. So that's with excitable. With fearful, we go through that same process, but we just go focus on me, not the dog. Focus on me, not the dog. Closer, closer, closer. So you can see it's the same strategy, but just using a different behavior. You could argue calmness would work for both scenarios, but with a dog, if you've just got them into a lie down, again, doesn't necessarily mean the arousal isn't building. So you can still have a dog laying down still full of excitement and full of sort of fear. So by getting them to do different behaviors, that tells you that the dog is not focused on that and will not be getting excited about the other dog. Because if they're giving you a hand touch, giving you a middle, focusing on you, you absolutely know that they're not getting aroused by the other dog. The same principle for the window. So does that make sense? Has anyone got any sort of questions that they might want to ask regarding that? Just trying to think, what was the one point that we were... Vicky mentioned something earlier. So, so my dog has become sort of more reactive to dogs and people sort of during lockdown. So again, one of my favourite games that we do, which is basically, we say game, I mean, we call it distraction, mark, treat. So distraction is anything in the environment that stimulates, that is different, that is novel. So you're walking down the street and you see a person coming, that would be the distraction. The moment my dog is doing nothing, I mark it with a yes, or a good boy, good girl, and then give them a treat. Okay, but the key to successful sort of DMTing is doing it with things that the dog wouldn't react to anyway. So let's just say I go and my dogs don't react, I would reward that. So I teach the concept of not reacting to something new. So the minute I create any noise, so you can see now I've got my doorbell. So just bear with me. Oops. So can you just bear with me 1 second? Just let them know that I'm just on a live. I know you can hear me, so apologies.
Hello, John.
So I'm just on a live.
Did you get
So not yet.
Oh.
So I'm on a live. I've got.
All right.
I'll see you later.
I've just contacted Pam, my other referee, and they said it came this morning.
All right, have a look. Apologies. One of the joys of doing lives. So I'm just a referee for someone who's doing foster dogs. So there you go. See, my dogs didn't go mental, but have stimulated because we've had the doorbell. But no barking, no nothing. So I know, girl. Yeah. Right. It's one of the things you don't get when you sort of work in an office, is it? Yeah, there you go. What a way to make a point about stimulus. Yeah. So as you can see, they've moved. Rebel jumped off the sofa, heard the doorbell. So even though it wasn't a negative reaction, you know, they've not gone into meltdown. So I can actually reward them and do what's what. And no, girly. There you go. Right. So, right, I've lost my train of thought now, so just try and get my thought process back on. So what were we talking about? Yeah, Rebs is amazing, isn't he? Okay. Let me just double check where I am. So yeah, so disengagement, desensitization, hand touch, middle. So any sort of reactivity. So let's say when you see people, just let the dog know that people are okay. So it's almost like people, treat, people, treat. And I say treat, I like to use the dog's own food, okay, wherever possible, okay, so that we're not overfeeding, we're not using treats, we're using their normal daily food allowance. Now, for a dog, their food is their currency. For us, we know it's money, the most valuable thing. And again, to use the analogy, if I paid every one of you for your job, your salary for 2 years up front, your productivity goes down. So if I encourage you and pay you weekly and say if you work harder, then we get all this, so you can see your productivity goes up. With the dog, when we give them their food all in one go, what's the motivation? Okay, yes, we can use toys, but in reactivity, toys can often be the wrong thing because it drives arousal up. So if they have negative reactions to stimuli, then it can really give you a bigger problem. If they can absolutely stay focused, so for some people it may be that a ball is the most focused thing, and if your dog will stare at you for the ball, okay, and you can keep the dog's attention, but I'd always be worried that the arousal in the system is driving up, okay, so it's just driving up, so that if they were to switch off from that toy and then suddenly the dog's there and scares them, the reaction will be worse. So I do tend to always recommend going down the food route or just movement and focus, okay? But in all things, the key thing with reactivity is you must make sure that your reward markers are calm, okay? So even though they may just go past somebody and you think, they've done amazingly well, and you go, oh, well done, that's too much. We need to keep everything calm, okay? So I think we've covered enough, and yeah, probably gone over a little bit what I wanted to do. So there's a lot to go through there, and there is a lot to it. So it's a massively complex issue, and not probably something that we can cover over, but hopefully in that little session there we've been able to cover off what it sort of stems from, what it looks like, what you can do, but don't always put your dog into that same situation. So if you have to sort of go once every other day and just calm them down, and also think about walking your dog based on stimuli. So remember I said about that graph. So when I go out with these two, so obviously you can see now that what we've got now is, there you go, got them settled back down. So what we can do is just keep everything sort of nice and calm, and reward them for the right behaviour. So I'll just have a quick check what we got there. So when Max was a puppy, a jogger ran behind me in the dark and made me jump and scream. Do you think that is why now at 2.5 he still chases them? Absolutely. So if you saw the trigger picture, so what you get there is you get a link for, you know, you jumping and screaming with, you know, a jogger. So absolutely it could be, you know, his trigger picture could well have been made up with that in mind. So the key thing there is what you have to try and do is desensitize them to the jogger by going to places where there are joggers, but starting distance away. But I would also throw in confidence games where I might start doing movement games. So in the back garden, I might get a bottle, or if you've got a large cuddly toy, depending what you want to use, and I tie some string around it, and then I might just pull the string to sort of whiz past the dog and then reward. So I'm trying to think about how I can create movement to stimuli, because it may not be joggers that Max is sort of worried about. It could be just movement. So by getting a ball, rolling it, having your dog focus on that. Now you might find that you roll it fast, the dog chases it. You roll it slow, he just kind of goes like that. So that's the point you start at. So you start with the slow roll and you reward for not going after it, and then the roll gets faster and you reward for not going after it, and you roll it faster, and then you might bounce it. So you can see how we build up desensitization all the time into small little steps, and just teach the dog to not lunge after things. And once you've done it with a ball, then you do it with something bigger. Then you might get a cyclist to just wheel the bike up and down, or someone to jog past. So you have your dog and you just get them to walk past, reward. Walk a bit faster, reward. Walk a bit faster, reward. Run, reward. And then you go to a park where there are more runners, but you go distance. So whenever you increase the stimuli, okay, so if you make it harder by making it faster because the joggers, you have to increase the distance, and then you start shrinking the distance. And then if you're going to go to, like, let's say 100-meter race, you'd have to go back to distance. So you might start with marathon runners running at the slowest pace, and then you'd go to 400 meters runners, 200 meters runners, and 100 meters runners. And at each level you would go marathon, distance, shrink. So if you're with me, then you would go to 400 meters, but you go back to distance, shrink. Then you go to 200 meters, but you go back to distance, shrink. 100 meters back to distance, shrink. You cannot expect a dog to go from, okay, one slow jogger's ran past me and I've gone all the way to close and rewarded, for them to immediately cope with something traveling really fast. You have to do it in all these little stages. So hope that makes sense. Brilliant, Vicky. So yeah, hopefully you found it informative, and glad that, you know, lots more to try. So there's a lot of things there, but look, if anyone has any comments, obviously if you want to look at disengagement, I do have an online disengagement course. I think it's just 12 quid, which just teaches the concept of teaching a dog to switch away from something they desire. So with Rebel and Bliss, I've done it with food, I've done it with toys, I've done it with multiple objects. But if you want to understand that in a much more, I think it's probably about 8 5-minute sort of little videos of how we train disengagement. But disengagement is key, but always think about, what do I want my dogs to do in that moment, and then train that. So that's my simplest message. So to finish off with, think about, well, if I'm walking down a street and a dog comes into view, what do I want my dog to do? So if that is, I want them to turn and face me, then train turn and face in your back garden, in your living room. If it's middle, and then I'm going to turn 180 degrees, or I'm going to turn 90 degrees towards the wall, then train that in your garden, in your living room. If it's hand touch, train the hand touch, and then do it in more increasing stimulus. But disengagement is the key. And don't put your dog under too much pressure. If they cannot cope with it, avoid it. You know, there are many, many ways to exercise a dog without having to take them for a walk. I'd certainly be looking at scent work, 10 minutes of scent work. I mean, I did a 10-minute search with Bliss this morning. We got Ken down, laid down. We created a crime scene in the bottom of the garden. She had to find a tin of scent in his inside jacket pocket. She did that. She had 2 searches. One was 3 minutes, one was 4 minutes. She came in, she went to sleep. And you can see, I mean, she's a Springer, and yet she's asleep on there now. So it's important to think about, we have this belief that we have to walk our dogs every day. Well, my caveat is we have to exercise our dogs every day. but exercise doesn't have to be a walk. Okay, mental stimulation, getting to do different things, and then thinking about strategies of what is powerful enough, what can I create that makes my dog want to do a behavior in the face of anything. And just one final point, I think on a flip side of that with Rebel loves our vets. He is absolutely besotted by him. So he goes into there, and it's the one time when Rebel will lose his mind over most things. You know, he can't do a sit, he can't do a left spin. If you say left, he'll lie down. If you say lie down, he'll do left spin. He'll do stick him up, but then he's just going all over. So he gets too reactive in a positive way at the vets. So I had to do all of this with Rebel, you know, to get him to be calm in the vet. So I have to go walk to the door. Oh, I can see he's agitated, he wants to go in. So I walk him away, bring him back, walk him away, bring him back. And then when we go in, I get him straight onto the weighing scale. So again, that's just another process that goes, instead of him going straight to the reception counter and going, oh, look, there's everybody he loves and he's going to get some nice fuss. He goes, no, jump onto the scales, sit still, get weighed, calms him down. But also, if I always do it that way, that will become a predictor. So I don't always weigh him when I go straight in. Sometimes I go in and we go and sit down in the reception area before I even say hello to the ladies on reception and say Rebel's here. I'll take him down into the waiting room and we'll sit there, because everything becomes a predictor. So I mix it up all the time. Okay, so I think we're about done. And if you have got any other questions, contact me, send me a message, let me know. But I hope that was useful. And I'll do another post in a bit where we can look at what we're going to have a chat about. Maybe next week, maybe we'll talk about recall. And yeah, take care. Thanks for bearing with me and sort of listening to me, but I hope you enjoyed that. I'll speak to you soon. Take care.